Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Thanks for being here. I'm excited to dive in to the second half of my summer 2025 travel album. So stick around. Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. I hope you're doing well. I am now showing you the title page I created as a filler and just sort of like a like a buffer between the first half of the album and the second by adding those cut up words from a piece of pattern paper from Ali Edwards, and it says, "Let us lay in the sun and count every beautiful thing we can see." And there was like a typo on that original paper, so I just cut it up and made the individual letters look super extra cute and gave it some texture by doing so on the back of it's a very light sand colored pattern paper I had from Heidi Swap in my stash. And then I just added some puffy stickers and a die cut piece at the top that I trimmed out of one of the 12 by 12 papers from the color, I don't know if it's Colors or Color, but that's the most recent Storyteller kit. It says Memory Keeping Love. And then on the right, you can see I've pulled this other piece of 6 by 8 sized pattern paper that has 6 spots for journaling or photos. And I have already added in the ephemera that I want to include on this page because I actually don't have any photos from this portion of our trip. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. I'm just going to speed up the camera. So on our way down on Monday, the 26th, I think it was, of August, we stopped at the Pocono outlets and did some back to school / back to work shopping. And those are some of the labels I had left over from our clothing items or tags. I love ephemera. I am 100% a trash panda and I'm totally fine with it. So I collected everything and just included it here and there. One of the things I did on this page was I took my X-Acto knife and I trimmed out the little white wonky, like it's almost like a wonky postage stamp shape, and I trimmed out 2 of those and I put the ephemera behind the window of that cutout part. So on the top right I have the label from my new sneakers, and then in the bottom or in the middle row I've got a few tags from some places we bought clothes. On the left, I have the top of the receipt from Nora's first ever purchase at Abercrombie & Fitch, which is so funny because, again, just like the beginning, I don't know if you watched the first half of this album, but we did some shopping and she got some tops at American Eagle, and I wrote that I couldn't believe. It's funny, that's how the last portion of the album ended, was with our trip to grab some clothes for her. And I talked about how I couldn't believe we were shopping at a women's store for my 9-year-old. And so similar feelings surrounding going shopping this time, except this time we went to the Abercrombie & Fitch store, which is so funny because I actually used to work there when I was younger, way younger. So nostalgia. And then I have just a tag from some pants Nora got, the top of our Lululemon receipt. And then I decided to fill the bottom right little area with part of our room key card envelope, because that night we got in around 9. It was quite late and we just checked in and went to bed. And underneath I'm creating like a little flip up. There's a picture of Nora like watching her iPad in the back seat there on the left, and then on the right is Nora waving. That was where we had stopped to get dinner. And so I just put those 2 photos in there because that's all I had from our trip down, and I just journaled about how we left Monday morning and did our shopping and then got to the hotel by 9, right underneath on top of the room key envelope. And the way I created this little tag to hold it down was by only covering up half of this sticker that says "Ready for an Adventure" with that scrap piece of Post-it that I just used, and then the other half sticks to the pattern paper so that it can just stick down like a tag. The last thing I'm going to do, well, of course, I'm going to reference my Hobonichi cousin because my daily journal is my brain on paper. And I'm just going to stamp the date. I'm going to add a few more puffy stickers. I like the green that I have kind of going with this page. The bright green foam letters are from Citrus Twist. And then that scallop washi is from Doodlebug Design. I got that on scrapbook.com, and I have an affiliate link in my description box if that's something you're into. And then I also stamped with my new alpha stamps that I love. Stamped August at the top and then Road Trip right next to it. And I think, oh, I'm also going to add a little geotag marker for on top of the Hilton card there. So that came together pretty quickly, but you know, like I said, I knew what I was going to do before I sat down and started filming. I have all these pages pre-planned out and ready to go. I just want to say that I am speeding up the stamping portion of the video to 8 times the speed, and then anytime like I'm just doing the normal sped up process portion, it's 4 times, just in case you're curious. You can see I'm masking off this little car. It said something else underneath it and I didn't want that part, so I just masked off the part I didn't want by putting washi over it. And then I did my journaling off camera as usual, and then flipping to the back side, now I have this really fun sort of wonky oval shaped pattern paper with the bright yellow. Absolutely love it. Big fan of the warm colors altogether, especially for summer. So I just kind of played around with the pieces I wanted to use. Some of them came in the die cut pack and some of them are I cut out, just fussy cut out of the pattern papers that came with the kit. And I did mention I'm using the Color Storyteller kit. That's mostly what I'm sticking to for this portion of my album. And it's from Allie Edwards, in case you didn't know. So I am going to, wherever there's a star on the die cut circle, I'm going to put a brad through that portion and attach it to the paper. So I have Remember These Times, and underneath it, I'm just going to journal a little bit about how Nora came to the gym with me each morning and how it felt good to stay on top of my health routine even though we were away. And then underneath the labely, taggy style ones that have the asterisk at the top and the white space, I just stamped 1, 2, and 3. And there are 3 different photos from our gym, like, I guess, the morning part of our daily routine. And then underneath, there's nothing underneath the floral die cut. That's just there for, you know, because it's pretty. And then another story on the bottom left has a photo of Nora sitting in the front seat of the car. We took Matt's car down. It's a newer Civic Sport, so she's definitely tall enough, and I looked up the guidelines, and she was tall enough to, like, there's nothing strict about it in where we were in Pittsburgh. So, but she is pretty tall, and she's, you know, a good weight for her age, and, you know, obviously if she's wearing women's clothes, she's not that tiny. So I just wrote on a little sticker on top of the photo of Nora waving that she's now tall and big enough to sit in the front seat, and that I can't believe it, because I literally can't believe that. And on the front of that tag, I just stamped Details on the Road, and then put a couple of puffy stickers. And these puffy stickers are older stickers I had in my stash from Paper Person Shop. And then the last thing I wanted to do was add some pom-pom trim on the side of the paper. So I found this orange trim in my stash and put that down with some red line tape. I had thought about adding some more things to the empty circles because it does look a little bit naked to me, but I'm not sure if I'm going to, and if I do, I'm not sure what I'm going to put there. So if you've got ideas, let me know in the comments, because I definitely am not sure what I would do with it. I like the balance of the 6 circles that I attached myself. It looks nice and, you know, like symmetrical, and I don't really know if I want to mess with that if I add anything else to the white circles, but I don't know. I really don't know. I thought maybe about stamping in the circles, like just a repeated phrase. You let me know your thoughts. I would love to know. These these are not eyelets. These are brads, are from my stash. I have a whole bunch of them. I think I ordered them off Amazon years ago. I still have quite a few left, so it's rare that I get to use them, but I am glad that I had all the colors that I wanted for this page. Again, really loving the warm colors of summer and just the way that it all looks together. I think it's really aesthetically pleasing. Again, I just don't know about those, half circles and those plain white circles that are on the page. So once I get all that stamped out, as usual, the last type of embellishment I want to include is like a little tiny sticker here or there. I thought about adding that little that little dumbbell sticker that I had in my hand just a minute ago would have been perfect because it was all about, exercising together in the hotel, but I didn't like the aesthetic, so I decided not to include it. I just wanted to include little pops of red, orange, and yellow on the front, so I found this little stop sign sticker and the arrow kind of to be like, look underneath here, there's something else to see. So and then I found that little teeny tiny circular black label sticker to journal on about Nora being in the front seat, which again is still mind blowing to this day. Like every morning when we get in the car to go to school and she opens the front, like the passenger door and not the back door, I have a little like moment where I'm like, what are you doing? And then I'm like, oh, right, because you're giant. So anywho, like I said, I'm just going to add a little bit of trim. I love to add pom-pom trim or even other trim if I have it. Usually I just order a bunch of pom-pom trim off of Amazon, but sometimes now that Joanna's no longer, I used to go there and get a bunch from Joanna as well, but maybe Michael's will start carrying some. I don't know. So I'm just going to use my Tombow tape to adhere this page to the back of the very first one about the trip with all of the shopping ephemera, do a little trimity trim, and add my pom-pom ribbon on the edge. So the next page is really just an excuse to hand stitch on paper, which is my obsession at the current moment. Obsessed. I really wished I could do rosettes and other fancy schmancy, embroidery stitches. I have not been able to master any other technique really than basic stitching. I'm sure there's a name for the type of stitching I'm doing, back stitching maybe. I don't know. But I just really wanted to stitch on paper, and I had this gorgeous paper, you can see it right now, is from an older Heidi Swapp collection. It was actually a summer kit that she released a few years ago when I very, very, very first re-entered the scrapbooking world after ages. And so I'm going through all of my embroidery floss to see what colors will match, picking that out. Once I get that picked out, then I'm going to poke all the holes along the edges of the rays of the sun and along the semicircle portion of the sun. And then I decided I was going to stamp inside of that sun just to add a little something extra on the page. But really, I don't even need this paper to be this extra. It's just the vibes I'm in right now. But really why I needed this was because we went on Tuesday to the Phipps Conservatory, which wasn't our original plan, but I was so much happier to go there than to the Children's Museum because we've gone to so many children's museums, and I feel like, I don't know, we had gone to the one that we were supposed to go to already. Like we went last year. If you saw my April spring break mini travel album, I documented our trip there, and that's where we were planning to go, but instead we decided to go to the conservatory, which was so cool. And at the at the gift shop, we bought a few things, and so I wanted to keep a portion of the envelope that they gave us our merchandise in because it has the logo on it. So I wanted, and the bag was pretty big. It was too big for me to kind of insert all by itself. So I knew I was going to trim it down and just have it be the size of outside the page protector, which is 7 by 8¼ inches. And so I knew that I was going to have another piece of pattern paper just to back it with. And I found this one and I was like, oh, this is perfect because it matches the colors on the left. I mean, they're slightly more muted and it's a distressed look versus, the kind of modern, oval shapes to the left, but I think it's fine. It looks really great all together, and you'll see it when I flip through at the end. But anyhow, all that to say, I really just wanted to have some fun and play. And for me, that is so much of the fun of scrapbooking and storytelling is just playing with all the things. So I use this, I wanted a big stamp. So I had found this Hello Sunshine from a Heidi Swapp stamp set, and it had a whole bunch of little stars on it. So I stamped that with just some plain black ink. And then I'm using my piercing tool, which is from Ranger. And I'm going to just I'm just eyeballing it. Again, I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to this type of thing. It's just for fun. So, and I just went around and poked all the holes, and then I started to hand stitch. And I did not film that because it would have taken forever. So I did most of that off camera. It actually takes hours to do. So I was just finishing up the Handmaid's Tale while I was doing this, which was awesome. And I'm just going to show you the last couple, I think it's the last ray I'm just going to do on camera just so you can see it. But you can, you can see that I have already done, 98% of the paper's stitching. So like I said, the backside of this paper was really just to hold part of the bag that we got at the gift shop. So I got a sticker as per usual and a postcard. I always try to get a sticker and a postcard for myself. And then Nora ended up picking out this gorgeous butterfly like crystal necklace that's handmade by this small local business. And it's so beautiful. She wanted it so bad she paid for half of it herself. So I knew she really wanted it. I was hesitant because, it's a pretty fancy piece of jewelry for a little girl who doesn't always keep track of all of her things, but I'll get into that in just a second. So I'm going to trim down this paper. Unfortunately, I did it kind of wonky and it is off-centered on the back, but it is what it is. I just left it that way. I suppose I could have added washi on the side that has like too much negative space. You'll see what I mean in a minute here. This side, the left side of the paper bag has more negative space than the right. I could have tried to remedy that by adding a little border there, but I just said, oh well. And I taped it down just using some double-sided score tape. On the top, I had a little bit of the yellow paper peeking through because I didn't trim it perfectly, so I added some washi. It's not my favorite. I think I'm going to go back and change it out. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not cute. I chose it because it had green and because it was, like florals and grass, which is the entire, conservatory essentially. And then I just added a few puffy stickers for it not to be so plain. So I found this die cut that says, "So very thankful for this colorful memory," which is so true. I mean, if ever there was a colorful memory, this was it. The florals were gorgeous, absolutely stunning. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Truly like a one-of-a-kind experience. I've been to the botanical gardens in Canada before, years and years and years ago when I was a little kid. I don't remember it that well, but this was just like a different vibe for sure. So I'm just going to add a few things to embellish the bag, but I guess first before I do that, I'm working on this postcard. So I want to include this postcard that I purchased. There were several to choose from. This was outside the conservatory in the back and it was gorgeous. So there were all these lily pads and this little water fountain, and it kind of gave me like Monet vibes. He always did like the lily pad impressionist paintings. So I chose this postcard. Then I wasn't sure if I was going to write on the back of it or what, but I ended up deciding to add a little pocket to put some more ephemera in. So I have these little clear plastic pockets. I think they're from American Crafts. I got them at Joann, again, a long time ago. Not sure what I was going to use them for, but glad I purchased them. You could make your own. You could just, like take some paper and make your own little pocket. But I had these clear pockets, so I just pulled that out. And I included the tickets from the day and then the business card that came with Nora's necklace. So it's this little mom and daughter business called The Pretty L, or The Pretty One? The Pretty One. Yeah, number one, The Pretty One, Artists and Jewelry. And so I included that little business card because that was, what came with her fancy schmancy necklace. And the reason she got the butterfly is because there was a butterfly exhibit at the conservatory during the summer. So that was the thing Nora was most excited about, which is so ironic because a couple years ago when we went to the zoo, there was a butterfly like enclosure, a much bigger one, and she was petrified. So like I didn't know why she was so excited to go see it this time, but I'm glad she was because I love seeing the butterflies. And she was trying to get them to land on her and they wouldn't, but it's okay. It is what it is. It was still really fun and they were just gorgeous to see them like all flying around you. And I shared some of that in my stories if you were following me on Instagram at that time. So I'm on the back to decorating the little bag with some puffy butterflies from my Studio Calico stash, and then a label where I stamped the date. On the back of the postcard, I added the sticker right on there that I purchased that says FIPS, and then just a little tag that says admit one currently, which I thought was perfect. And it was yellow. So it was, I was playing with yellows and greens basically, and used my tiny attacher to staple the die cut to the postcard. So it acted as a tab, but also looks like a ticket, which I think is really fun. And then this giant photo I printed out is one of my favorites of Nora inside the conservatory when you walk in. And I all I did was add the chipboard to the top of it that says Colorful Joys, stamped the date, and I wrote that it was the Summer Flower Show. Jungle Quest was the name of it. And it on the website said, a safari bursting with topiary animals, tropical foliage, and the most beautiful blooms. And that's the perfect way to sum up what we saw. So I also can't get over how old Nora looks in this picture. Like, I'm staring at it now and going, who is this child and where did she come from? So anyway, the animal behind her is made out of plant material, and all of the exhibits were over the top, gorgeous and intricate, details beyond details, and were all made from plant materials, which I think is amazing. So on the back of this full page photo, I found this green floral or leafy pattern paper, which I thought was perfect for this particular visit or occasion. It's from, I think, the Fun Storyteller Kit or the Q&A. Actually, I think it's from the Q&A Storyteller Kit. So again, you know, dipping into my Ali Edwards stash. And I just decided to treat it like, you know, kind of a formula for like a page protector where it's a 4x6 photo configuration on the bottom and then 2 3x4s on the top. But instead of another 3x4, I found this vellum ticket that says Package of Memories. And I kind of wanted to bring in a little bit more blue. So I loved this color and just adhered it to the paper with some score tape. And then inside of it, I'm going to add some journaling. On the left is a picture of Nora in front of a flower wall. And I just added some chipboard from a travel collection. I think it was last year's Ali Edwards travel collection that says So Much to See. Then I also have the larger photo that I took when we went outside the conservatory. That's as you're walking in. So beautiful. And added a little fussy cut butterfly that I cut out of an old Tidy Swap paper, and put a chipboard phrase over the top of the butterfly that says Much Needed Break. And then on the inside, you can see right now I'm trimming down this tag pack from Heidi Swap, and I wrote on it that Nora wanted to go instead of going to the museum, which I had already discussed, so I journaled about that. I talked about how we were blaring the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack. We're still doing that to this day. We're obsessed. And just talking about how it's just wild having her sit shotgun, and then spending a few hours at the conservatory, just walking from room to room, being blown away by the floor-to-ceiling flowers and plants. I said that we saw a toucan, orangutan, giraffes, a python, crocodiles, a jaguar, and more, all constructed out of plant materials, and that it was like a huge maze of rooms. Some led to more amazing outdoor exhibits, which we got to play in. And then I said that it was interactive as well, and just an incredible way to spend our afternoon. I am loving the colors too. You can see I'm auditioning other die cuts. I liked the idea of adding the bright florals, but they don't really go with the shade of green that I'm working with, and I think it looks like it's just, yeah, it just doesn't really go. So I decided to just keep the one butterfly that I had cut out and then layer the chipboard over the top of that. I also added some baker's twine to the top of that tag just for a little something extra. I always love adding baker's twine and ribbon and trim. It's a fun way to add texture and give it just a little bit more something to look at when you're staring at these photos and reading about these memories. I can't wait to share the next side of this. Once I adhere the back side to the front of this paper, I just add a little bit of pom-pom trim again in this sort of darker green color. I think it matches really well with the front of the page, all the different greens in the large photo, and also with the greens on the back side of the photo as well. So I think that worked pretty nicely. Just using some red line tape to do that. And then moving on to my favorite, a shaker pocket. I love a shaker pocket. I love a sequin mix. It's just extra embellishment, bling, color, fun. And so I broke out the fuse tool and I plugged it in, warmed it up, and then I pulled out a bunch of sequins that I knew were going to be the colors I'm working with, which are greens and blues. So, and I wanted to test it out and make sure that I thought it would look good with, what you can see peeking through those shaker pockets. So these are page protectors it's my favorite configuration. It's 2x2 squares, and there are 12 on the front and 12 on the back. So I printed out 2, 4, 6, 12 photos from our trip and put those in the pockets. And then on every other pocket, I left it blank, and that's where I was going to put this sequin mix that you can see I'm making now. I just pulled out this little tray and a bunch of sequins. So I've got like a royal blue and then a larger green, emerald green. Then I have 2 different sizes of the light blue. They're butterflies, which I was like, oh, perfect. And these little teeny tiny like green hearts, which are the perfect shade of green to go with the paper that is on the left, and then some of the colors that are going to peek through with the photo that's going behind this page protector. So you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. But I didn't film this whole thing. I did, but I edited out half of it. I'm only showing you the first 3 pockets just because it's the same thing. It's just me taking this little bead scooper, scooping some sequins into the pocket, which can be a little tricky, a little messy, right? And then I have this really old like cutting board. It's just from Dollar Tree. I don't care what happens to it. I can just get another one if it gets jacked up for the fuse tool. And you just layer the tool over the top of where you want to seal or fuse the plastic, and then you take your little fuse tool and just run it in that negative space there, that little hole in the ruler. So really easy and fun to do, and definitely adds a extra, element of fun to the scrapbook. So lots of photos, just different rooms, both inside and outside. They had a huge room with cacti that were like insane. Like there's a picture on the back of Nora standing in front of a cactus that's way, way taller than her or myself, reaching almost all the way to the top of the greenhouse roof. There are pictures of the butterfly you can see there. And yeah, just, and then that same outside photo that is on the postcard I took as well. So that's on the back side of the picture. And then the last page I'm working on is just this 4x6 photo. I loved it. I don't know if you could see it now, but it's got there in the background. There's just so much to see. And I just took this saw, heard, ate, bought, loved card, and I wrote about the exhibits we saw, the hearing lots of oohs and ahs from both ourselves and other people as we were walking around, and also like the music track they had playing in the background with animal sounds transporting us to the tropics. We didn't eat anything. We talked about what we bought, and then just loved spending time with Nora and feeling like we were going on an adventure together, and how it was just such a unique experience. And then the Butterfly Emporium being Nora's favorite exhibit. So that is it for this video. It's just basically Monday and Tuesday of the trip. And, well, actually, that's not even true. This is only part of our day on Monday. I'm going to come back with part 2 of this series to continue documenting our day on Tuesday. But right now, I'm just showing you a finished flip through of all of the pages I put together with you here. You'll have to let me know if you have questions about anything I did or used, and comment down below if you want to sound off on this trip. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you did, and subscribe if you're not. Would love to have you here on the channel and part of the Chappy fam. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves, friends, and remember that you are enough. Bye.